Ashtavakragita, chapter 4, verse 5. Of the four kinds of created beings from Brahma down to the clump of grass, it is the wise one alone who is capable of renouncing desire and aversion. Brahma is the creator of this world as per the Hindu mythology, and the sage is talking about the wide range of creation from plants, animals, etc. that is being created by Brahma. And he's talking about the four kinds of created beings from Brahma, which is born from the uterus, born from the egg, generated from water vapor or sweat, or sprouting up. Like any kind of birth that takes place, so that has been explained here. And he is saying that the person who is wise and aware is the one who is capable of renouncing desire and aversion. Aversion meaning dislike. Okay. Why is the sage stressing on desire and aversion here? Isn't it quite confusing that, okay, the person who is capable of renouncing the desire and aversion? What is this? Let's see. In fact, let's first see our desires and aversions. That's when it would be practical. That's when we will understand the verses better. Let's see our desires and aversions in depth. And also, in any of the religious gathering or in scriptures, we would have come across the sayings, or we would have been told that sacrificing the desire is the path to reach God. Right? So, if you see this in our life, this is the dead end that someone would reach and hit. Right? Either desire or aversion. But the sage is taking us beyond this dead end. The sage is asking us to look at the ego which still exists after sacrifice. The ego which is hiding behind subtly and enjoying by saying that I am the one who sacrificed. This is the ego identity which is remaining comfortably. This is what the sage is talking about. The ego can live in the desire saying that I have desire. And on the contrary, it stays in aversion saying that I have sacrificed all desires. The ego remains the same in both cases. But what's wrong with this? What's wrong in having a desire or aversion? If these are not there, then what does the mind stick on to? Why does the sage have a problem with our desires or with our aversions? We have been living this way and this has been very comfortable, right? Let's observe this very carefully. Let's see, when we say that the desires and aversions, are we living in this loop throughout our lives? Let's check on this. Are we running behind the fulfillment of desires? And once the desires are fulfilled, what happens to the desire? Does it just fade away? But we did a great deal of work for years to fulfill the desire. How does it just fade away just like that? And are we controlling, stopping, pushing ourselves towards or away from certain desires? Do we fight with it? Do we have those thoughts? Is that even real? Yes, it seems real. We act upon it. But once it is gone, where is the attention? Does the desire of today turn out to be an aversion tomorrow? And does the aversion of today turn out to be a desire of tomorrow? Can we see the loop here? And let's not just agree on it. It is worth pausing here and looking at these things deeply. I know it might be a bit of confusion to the mind because the mind always wants to live in reference to running behind or running away from something. However, this understanding is necessary. And this understanding, this seeing, this transparency is what will lead to the complete flow state that the sage is trying to let us know. For this, work has to be done. We will have to see ourselves. This flow is happening in the presence of God. God's presence is only possible when there is no ego. This is the flow of bliss. And for this, we need to adapt constant awareness and practice. This practice of seeing ourselves is sadhana. This itself is the real purpose of our lives. This is the actual work. In fact, this is our true profession. And I know this is not very easy, my dear ones. Looking at our own ego is not that easy. The work that we are doing here is pure. Facing our own self is not easy, but that's okay. It's easy to praise, blame, comment, etc. on others. But when it comes to looking at ourselves truly and being transparent about it and reporting the same to God is very difficult. But this is the pure work. And the sage is saying, only with this is where we can come out of this loop. Our mind or ego might deviate our focus from this and say, how can we not have desire or aversion? Where do we stand now? See how the mind goes into this or that. See how it tries to grab the reference. Because it's not comfortable to the mind. And the sage's work here is to make the mind uncomfortable. That's okay. In this uncomfort or discomfort is where the false drops. When the false is dropped, what exists? This silence is God. The sage is not actually telling us to be confused. He is telling us to be clear. He is telling us to be with God. That's the way of life. If the God is some point to be reached by doing so and so steps, then those steps would have been given to us and everyone would have followed, and that's it, right? But that's not the way how it works. God is living this life in His presence, living this life with Him, doing the highest qualitative work of God, renouncing the false and being with the truth. The sage is not telling us to drop all of it and sit in one forest. No, that's the mind telling us. That's the mind which is trying to contradict the sage's words. In fact, the sage is saying, if you are an architect, if you are an artist, say technician, sports person or anything, do the same work with the quality of God. Not working for a desire of limited outcome. If all my actions are for God, then how can there be any aversion to this or that? God will take care. What am I holding on to? My focus is God. And when God is in focus, whatever comes and goes, I'm not worried about it. Does it feel like death if there is no desire or aversion? Yes, this is the death of ego. Our mind is attuned to see this as death. In our heart, there is birth of God. God is born for us. This death of the ego and the birth of God is bliss. There is no worry about the things that come and go. We are living with the presence that is unchanging. This is liberation. This is living. Other than this, there is no other life worth living.